When you're putting together a pitch to get investment from a bunch of angels, you'd often wonder, what do they want to see in this deck? I'm asked that all the time, and rather than just give my own idiosyncratic answer, I went out and interviewed a bunch of different angel investors and found the 9 things all angel investors want to see in your pitch deck. Hi, I'm Lance, and welcome to Feel the Boot, where every other week you get new tips and advice on all aspects of running a startup company. You can also get this information as a blog at feeltheboot.com or listen on the go with our podcast, available at any of the major podcasting services. These 9 things comprise the core information angels want to know about your business before they commit to due diligence or even a follow-on meeting. Now, you're never going to close the deal with a pitch deck, but if you blow the pitch, there is no step 2. Note, this is what angels say they want, not necessarily how they actually make decisions. We all know that most decisions are emotional, and trying to untangle that would be a much harder research project. Right off the bat, we want to know what is the problem that you're trying to solve. And please frame this in terms of the customer. What do they need to get out of this? And we want to know, is this a nice to have for them or a need to have? Also, tell us how much pain this problem is causing. Is this totally disrupting an entire sector of the economy? And if this is not an area that we as investors are familiar with, it would be great to know that there are thought leaders in the space that recognize the scope of this problem that you're about to solve. Next, what is your solution? Tell us quickly and concisely what it is you're actually doing, and make sure that relates back to the problem you just described. Don't get bogged down in details. If you were pitching me the telegraph, I want to know, how does this move the needle to the customers? Tell me about how messages can be sent over great long distances. Don't get into details about the magnetic coils that actuate the little thing that makes the dots on the piece of paper. I'm not trying to buy this product, I'm investing in your company. It's a very different level of detail that's required. At the end of this part of the pitch, I should be able to picture in my mind your customers using your solution to solve their problem. I want to have a mental image of what it feels like to be using this product. Number 3, we want to know about the competitive landscape. There are always competitors to the solution you're offering, even if it's something really simple. In many cases, I see companies where their main competition is customers that are using Excel to track whatever it is that they're hoping to provide a better solution for. We need to know, why is your solution better? And in fact, enough better that they're going to switch to go use it. In many cases, when I see a competitive matrix, it's just a list of features, and I may have no idea whether those features are interesting. For example, when I'm looking at this set of providers for my next rocket ship, do I care about the Freem drive? What difference does that make? What's a myrtleizer? Is a vertical takeoff something that's going to be useful to me? In contrast, I can immediately see why exploring the galaxy might be a really exciting thing to do, and vaporizing enemies might be extremely valuable to a certain class of supervillain. In all cases, frame this in terms of how this benefits the end user. I want to understand why they're going to want to use your product and why your product solves their problems better than the alternatives, not just a list of who has the most widgets. Number 4 is defensibility. Your product might be the best thing in the universe right now, but as soon as all your competitors see what you're doing, aren't they going to want to copy you? What kind of barriers to entry exist to prevent them from doing that? Do you have some sort of a moat that is going to keep the marauders out of this patch of market that you're trying to dominate? For example, are there network effects that allow the first mover to totally dominate the market as long as they can capture a large enough fraction really quickly? Do you have some kind of unfair advantage that makes you unique in the marketplace? Do you have enforceable intellectual property that you can use to stop other people from copying what you're doing? Using intellectual property for defensibility is much more than just having a patent. It needs to be a strong patent that's not easy to circumvent, that you can plausibly enforce against your competitors. If this is actually a weak patent, we're going to find out about that in due diligence, and it'll actually come out as a strike against you. Number 5 is the team. Many angels put a lot of weight on the quality of the team. A common saying among investors is bet on the jockey, not the horse. In my experience, team slides are often the worst slides in the deck. They're just a set of faces, maybe some names, job titles, some companies they've worked at. It doesn't do anything to sell the investor on why this team is the group among all other teams that will take the company to the promised land, even after you've had to go through a couple of pivots to get there. If your team has prior experience in this industry, tell me about it. Having insider knowledge of the problems that the industry has and how they go about purchasing solutions makes it much more likely that you'll be able to succeed in this space. We'd also love to hear that you have a track record of success in leadership positions in prior startups. Highlight all of your team's skills: technical, leadership, human, communication, all aspects of your team. What are your strengths? And make sure we know about them. Some of the things about your team are going to come out in the deck, but in fact, we're watching you all the time, and we're learning a lot about your communication skills, coachability, ego, and integrity in all of our interactions. Angels want to work with founders who are high energy, passionate about their company and their solution, and are people of integrity. Make sure that shines through in the deck and in all other aspects of your interactions. Number 6, the business plan. We're not looking for an MBA-style, big, thick, bound, formal business plan. What we want to know is, what's your plan for this business? How are you going to make money? Maybe not now, but eventually. How are you going to go into the market? What's your plan for building your user base? Avoid just listing the obvious things. We're going to do ad buys, PR, social media, outreach. Every company is going to do that. Show me that you've put some thought into your go-to-market plan, that you have some real insight into how you're going to succeed over anyone else who might be trying to do the same thing. We're looking for any glaring holes, inconsistencies, or unwarranted assumptions in your business model that would be likely to cause you to fail. This is also where you're going to talk about your market size, your TAM, SAM, SOM. How big could this opportunity be? But please tell me about the opportunity for your solution, not for the entire market. I'm constantly getting pitches where they tell me about the size of the entire automobile industry where they're selling seatbelts. Tell me about the size of the seatbelt market, please. We also want to see some financial projections, not some giant, complex, hairy thing, but just a very lightweight set of projections. And in fact, I recently did an episode on how to put together financial projections for angel investors, linked down in the description. One of the things we want to see from these projections is cash requirements. How much money do you need now? And are you going to need other investments later? And how big will those be? We're worried that if you have a big investment coming up, it might mean substantial dilution for the earlier investors. Or if that round doesn't materialize or doesn't come as quickly as you need, you just may run out of money or come calling on us for additional investment. None of those are good outcomes. Finally, do you have some sort of long-term grand strategy? Where is this going in 5 or 8 years? Do you go beyond sort of this initial concept and take over the world in some interesting way? Your pitch should focus on the short term, but I want to know that there is a long term out there in your mind. Number 7, progress. We want to know, what have you actually accomplished so far? Do you have a fully finished product ready to go? Do you have a prototype, MVP, detailed designs, market surveys, whatever you've got? I want to know what's real. So often in these decks, it's difficult to tell what is aspirational versus actually built. Do you have any customer traction? Do you have cash sales? Do you have paid pilots or unpaid pilots? Do you have customer interest, survey responses? Anything you can show me to demonstrate that you've got traction into that market. Obviously, more is better. Number 8 is the deal. You're talking to us because you're raising money. So we need to understand, what is this investment that you're asking people to make? How much money are you raising? What kind of investment is it? Are you asking us to buy preferred stock, common stock, convertible notes? Are we investing in a safe? And at what kind of valuation? Or is this a capped investment? To be honest, most investors look at valuation and cap as being exactly the same thing, because if you don't hit that cap in the next round, it means things are going very badly, and we don't want to invest assuming things are going to go badly. What are these funds going to be used for? Also, how much have you raised in previous rounds? And what do you already have committed in this round? And do you have any name investors as leads or significant investors? Because investors like to follow well-known people. They go after success. Really, we're a lot like sheep that way. Obviously, we'd all like a priced, preferred round with lots of protective provisions. But for an exciting opportunity, many of us will take less. That's the nature of FOMO. And lastly, number 9, the exit strategy. When we invest, we want to know how do we get our money back. And usually that means either you're going to get acquired, the most common scenario, or you're going to go public, much less common. There are other payouts. I've seen a lot of real estate deals where there's an ongoing payback to the investor. But for most angel investments, we're looking for that end-of-the-road lump sum payout. If you have another structure, that's probably a big negative because it complicates things and it makes it more difficult for the angel to analyze the deal. Let us know, is this an active space for acquisition? Are there companies out there that are actively buying companies like yours? We want to know who are the likely acquirers. And if there's any data, what kind of multiples are companies seeing? While it's always possible that any given investor may have some out of left field demand or some strange hot button issue, for the vast majority, if you can really hit all 9 of these points, you have a good chance of getting through to that next meeting and into due diligence. Thanks for watching this episode of Feel the Boot. I hope you found it useful and interesting, and if so, do the usual like, subscribe, ring the bell. But I would particularly appreciate it if you would share this with other entrepreneurs that you know. I'm hoping that Feel the Boot becomes a community that makes all of us better and more successful. Till next time, ciao.